292 for 261. Look at the amount of negative delta wicking below the zone, right? So we had aggressive sellers unable to break below the zone. So this is what we call the exhaustion of a trend, or the end of a trend, right? The beginning of a new direction or a new trend comes from an absorption, in this case, of sellers, right? When you see a bullish trend beginning or a bullish trade, you are looking for an absorption of sellers. And the way you do that is by reading the bid and the ask. That is it, right? The bid and the ask tell you who is aggressive, respectively, right? Bid and ask, who is aggressively selling, who is aggressively buying. If the aggressive sellers are failing, and we can see that via one retest, two retests, and a huge amount of aggressive selling over here. With price breaking to the upside, this is what gives you the indication to take the first long. Okay, so if you didn't take this long because you thought it was a little bit risky, that's actually fine. There was a potential second trade that formed later on in the session, and we're going to break that down as well. So we're now going to understand what was going on over here. So do you remember over here there was a significant amount of aggressive buying? Right, there was a lot of aggressive buying and the market drove higher. So this means that there's passive sellers sitting in this region, right? Passive sellers here. Now, we can see price breaks above this zone with a body, right? We can see these passive sellers kind of failed, right? They kind of failed to hold the level because we saw price breaking higher. So this shows us that these passive sellers are no longer in control. We also see passive buyers are now in control, right? So now when we take an entry off this key level, what are we looking for, right? How can we see the exhaustion of this trend to start a new trend, right? How are we going to do that? So we're going to do that via delta footprint charts again. So again, what we can see is we can see the aggressive buyers starting to overpower these passive sellers, right? So these passive sellers have failed, right? And if you look down here, the aggressive sellers have also failed. So that gives us a huge amount of buying insight. Now, once we have that, what I want traders to understand is this kind of pullback over here, represented on the 5-minute chart. So we're going to look at this candle, this candle, this candle, and this candle. So we're going to look at kind of the 5, 10, 15, the 20-minute pullback, or the 15-minute pullback before the market, before the trend, the bearish trend was exhausted.